All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum. And I don't know what, it's Sabal Khair? Masal Khair. All right, thanks again. It's really very interesting topics that we are discussing today. And now today's topic which we have is basically a CIO agenda on how the CIO can enable the business and make it more scalable and drive business value through the technology leadership. And Abdurrahman, I've worked with a panel earlier. We have Rajan and Mr. Omar with us, all right? And we hopefully are able to, extract a lot of more opinion and experience out of you guys, which will actually give us a lot more vision and in terms of some guidance which we need and some clarity in thoughts on this as well. Again, since Abdul Rahman, we've worked before, I'll start with you again. So the question now here is that from a CIO's role, all right, rather than, as a technology operator, do you, give us some idea on how it can evolve into a business value enabler in today's landscape? Because right now, a CIO cannot just say that I'm a technology leader, all right? It's more on how he's enabling the business. So maybe you can give us some idea on this.
Yeah, thank you again. So I think of this session is more of a zoom in than from the previous panel, which basically talked about the overall C-suite of executives. Now we are focusing on the CIO. If we understand and if we accept that the future of organizations is digital, then a consequence of that would be expanding the authority and basically the way of leverage that the CIO have in organization. The more we digitize departments, divisions, the more the CIO have horizontal view of the organization, the flow of information from one department to another, from internal exchange of information to external exchange of information with customer, with the broader audience of, when we talk about the government sectors, to the ultimate end user, which is basically the citizens of the cities and the kingdom. So the way I think about it is CIO will be more of a digital parallel to the CEO, because he will be the only executive other than the CEO who has this horizontal view of across all the divisions. When we talk about HR, all be digitalized. Talking about financial, customer experience, operation, even when it comes to the day-to-day operation of warehouse, supply chain, and all of that. So the CIO will be more empowered to have the ability to be a strategic partner, a strategic executive in the organization, rather than the previous concept of CIO being an IT mindset of an executive that is a supporting function rather than a strategic partner to the core business of the organization. So I think going there would be more CIO leveraged in terms of authority, in terms of understanding, and with that comes all the accountability related to the language that we talk when we come to the board of executive, when we talk about accountability in terms of AI and achieving goals and so on and so on.
All right, thanks. That's very interesting from your side. And Mr. Omar, again, from a CIO's perspective, I would ask that if you can, share any example of any technology-led initiative which actually resulted in a revenue growth or an operational excellence, something which has given the business a competitive edge.
Yes, thank you. So a good example that I relate to from my previous experience is the introduction of digital front door strategy tightly integrated and connected to revenue cycle and EHR, which is electronic health record. Now, this strategy enabled the business, enabled our healthcare organization to achieve multiple goals and gains from that. So how we did it, we implemented the patient portal, the mobile app, integrated it through the data platform with electronic health record, revenue cycle management, and through standardized, all of that was achieved through standardized protocols like HL7 and FHIR and standard APIs. As an outcome, we were able to automate and reduce the denial rate for insurance claims. We were able to increase the conversion rate for patients booking, reduce the no-show rate, and also we managed to, this helped us to reduce the number of call center agents required. So like Abdurrahman said, actually, I second his comments on today's role of CIO is not only a technology owner, is not only an IT manager, it's a partner, strategic partner in the organizations. Now, so as I said, as an outcome, we were able to increase the revenue because we were reducing the rejection rate. We were able to bring in more patients, and we were able to reduce the overhead, operational overhead on call center.
Excellent, excellent. That's basically a very nice example from a healthcare and an insurance perspective, and definitely it's very useful. Now, Rajan, you are from the real estate business, and maybe you can give us some example related to the AI which which you have worked on or implemented in the real estate world, which basically has some enablement of facilities operations, things like that. Maybe you can elaborate a bit more on that.
Yeah, let me check if the mic is working. Am I audible, guys?
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum. I have worked in real estate technology industry for last 15 years. This question is very important because people are talking about AI, but one of the most important question is AI adding value in terms of either savings of time, cost, or in experience? And in Middle East market over the last 5 or 10 years, there was a lot of cognitive bias that okay, AI is a fancy thing, so let's implement AI, right? So things are moving away from implementing AI based on the cognitive bias to the outcome-based solutions. So I would like to give 3 examples where, time savings and cost savings and experience enhancement. One of the example could be in real estate sector, you have a huge amount of BMS data where, you could implement the AI-enabled solutions to, reduce the cost savings. Mr. Abdurrahman was talking about in the previous session that, the AI is not a side project. It's basically enable across how to transform the organization. So it ties into that, how do you save the cost across the organization, let's say for the utilities. So one of the example to save the cost. Second very good example is basically how you save the time. So VJLL has built first purpose-driven for real estate an LLM model called Azara AI, which is powered by Falcon AI in JLL, where we integrate all of the subsystems across the organization real estate. And, you can have all sort of property management, your building operations, your space management, all of the system integrated at one place, and you can have a chat GPT kind of queries to save the time. That's a very good example to save the time. A third example is basically how to increase the experience, enhance the experience of various personas across the organization. It could be your employees, it could be visitors, it could be your tenant, it could be, so AI is being used, and we have real-time examples where you can have an employee chatbot or visitor concierge with the help of AI. You can increase the productivity and enhance the productivity of your key personas. So these are three key examples how AI is being used in real estate. How do you measure the success, which is a very important question. The thing is, people were looking to deploy these kind of solutions based on okay, this is a fancy thing to do, or this is a cognitive bias, that's why we want to do. But now we are moving away from that to outcome-based. And, the three-legged pillar, IT, business, and the vendors, I think collectively should ask a question that do we want to deploy this for the sake of deploying, or we want to measure the success in terms of cost savings, experience enhancement, or time savings? And I think we should ask those hard questions, and that's the measure of success.
No, excellent, excellent. So
If
again,
I may add to this point, because there is a funny story that I faced like a couple of years ago related to this. One of the vendors came to me in one event and told me all about these amazing solutions that we provide and so on. And once we sit on the meeting for them to introduce their capabilities to us, they basically said, I'm rephrasing here, they said that the AI is the solution, just give me the problem. And basically they are jumping to conclusion, building AI or implementing AI just for the sake of the AI in itself. And I think those of us who knows about the dot-com bubble understand it's basically a FOMO, fear of missing out on these new technologies. So again, going back to value, if we have the goal in place, the capability that we are introducing in terms of business value, then whatever is the solution, basically it will add value.
definitely.
Yeah,
Rajan.
absolutely. I completely agree with you. Even since you mentioned the example, I now remember one of the example which was in UAE basically. So a project was under construction, and the CEO of the company said, okay, we want to make it one of the smartest building in the world. And when project was already in construction, MEP systems were going in, and it was like about to be completed, let's say, over the next 5 months, and just out of the blue, we wake up and say, okay, let's make it the smartest or the best. Obviously, there might be different definitions of that. But the thing is, like, if you have not designed that properly and your organization is not ready for that, even how the system architecture is going to look like, those kind of projects fail, and that failed. So even let's say if we build that mobile app or the chatbot and all, but if your organization is not even ready to use that, so there's no use of even building it. And that was a real-time example. People build a very fancy chatbot, but employee was not even trained to use it. So it was like, okay, guys, you have built it, but nobody's using it.
If I add a comment here, actually, Raj, it's we always say people, process, and technology. So technology comes next. I mean, after you have the defined process and after you have the right people to define the business strategy. Now, this is also an advice that I always and a comment I will always make to vendors when they approach me presenting their solutions, their technology. I would say, don't try to sell the technology, try to sell the value. Because to us as a business, we need to see where's the value and map it to our strategy, and then the technology becomes an enabler. Having the technology without a clearly defined value proposition, without a measurable value, without value realization plan, will just end up as an overhead capex, actually.
Excellent. So again, this went a little away, right from FOMO to your PPTs, basically people, process, and technology. But like I said, it's a very interesting fact that we are so involved and you are so experienced in order to express these kind of opinions. Now, coming back to the track, all right, Abdurrahman, let's go back to you. And we would like to understand from a CIO's perspective, as in how can you measure the business impact in the technology initiatives, specifically when you have to present it to the boards and the leadership. And like Omar just now also mentioned, that it's more from a vendor coming in and trying to give you the technology aspect of it. But how do you, explain the value to the board? Because technology, the technology leadership will understand. But when you are speaking to the board, when you are speaking to the executive team, they will want to understand the value. So how do you measure and demonstrate that?
Well, you see, if we accept the fact that the organization's future would be digitalized, and I'm talking fully digitalized, I talked about previously about the agentic AI and how it's going to be introducing, if I may say, zero employee departments that can be ready as a plug and play departments for startups and for organization to scale up exponentially. Now, with that, I think the CIO for the organization need to adapt to this responsibility. And the famous say is, with greater power comes greater responsibility. And I think this can translate to the CIO, that with greater authority comes greater accountability in terms of the whole organizations. So we are talking about changing the language from IT operator. We're talking reporting on uptime for servers, talking about migrating to clouds. Honestly, the board would say, so what? What's in it for us? Great, you're moving to cloud, you're adapting AI. So what if it's not contributing to the business values? And most of these capabilities actually contributing in a way or form, but the value lost in translation. So the CIO need to be talking the same language as other executives. And also with that comes the shared accountability for KPIs, objectives, and achieving the targets. All of these, I think, can bridge the gap between the CIO usual language in terms of technology, in terms of infrastructure, custodian in the organization, to a more of a strategic partner, talking about the language of CFO in terms of P&L, talking in terms of the HR, CHRO, in terms of value of employee for work, in terms of the ability to bridge the gap in terms of what we are seeing right now, the salaries and cost of employees skyrocketing. So leveraging digital in terms of solution for people, for employees to work from abroad, to work from across the country, can be beneficial for the CIO to make sure that he is contributing to the organization and talking the same language as other executives, the board, and ultimately being perceived as a contributor to the core business.
Excellent, excellent. And I like the Spider-Man reference there. But like I said, yes, it's very important that there is some business value-driven conversations with the senior stakeholders and the executive team. And the technology is more from the leadership stack to understand and take care of.
To add to that, actually, the IT strategy should be should stem from the business strategy, so not the other way. So when CIOs define their strategy in isolation from the business strategy, then the gaps will appear, and then the perceived value will not be high.
Exactly.
I would like to add to this. I think if we are presenting to the board, I think the initial success is very important. If we don't show that the thing which we are coming up with, if it is working or not working, because building the trust to accept and approve those ideas, obviously we need to show that how much is the initial success of it. It's very important. Like a small win, but we need to show that quick win. And I think overall, a board and executives will be looking at how my organization will get a competitive edge against my competitors if we do this. I'll give an example of, we are discussing with one of the customer who is trying to build their real estate organization to have a competitive edge against the other real estate organization. And also, one key challenge, let's say specifically they have, let's say if the project get delayed and something like that. So I think the overall objective when we are presenting to the board should be that how our organization is going to get a competitive edge and as well as a specific KPI to be achieved along with it.
All right, excellent. So these are very, very relevant discussion points here. Now, Omar, what has happened is throughout the day, all right, we have been talking about AI everywhere. Throughout the day, I mean, of the 10 discussion points, probably 9.5 have been AI. What I want to do is, take a pause on that, all right? And I'm going to ask you a question without involving AI in it, and maybe you can give me some, and again, it's still a technology question and it's relevant, but needs to be non-AI answer on this, yes? So
I will not use ChatGPT.
So coming back to the question, see, from a technology perspective, what role does the cloud, the data platform, and an enterprise architecture have in enabling a scalable future, business-ready model?
Thank you. So this is a great question, and actually now the cloud is becoming more popular, and more companies and organizations are really deploying their solutions in the cloud. I remember 10 years ago or 15 years ago when it was a new concept, and people were hesitant about it. Now, the cloud is the foundation of agile, elastic infrastructure that allows the business to scale their services without being constrained by the physical limitations. With the cloud, you can deliver your service to multiple geographical locations. You can scale in and out. You can scale in terms of services. You don't have to worry about the overhead of maintaining on-premises infrastructure and all the risks associated with that, etc. Having that said, it's not risk-free. It's not an optimal solution for everybody. So when we consider the cloud, we need to consider multiple factors and analyze them. First is, are there any regulations that prevent us from hosting certain classified data outside the country? So we need to look into the regulations, like, for example, patient data. We're not allowed to host patient records outside of the kingdom. Other data is subject to classification. This is number one. And secondly, you need to think also of the traffic between your cloud and on-premises infrastructure, and between your other clouds if you have multi-cloud architecture, because some of these cloud providers will charge you for the egress traffic between the clouds. So that's something that people overlook and get hit by the invoices. The other aspect is the latency requirement for some applications. If you ask me what works for us in the healthcare, I would say a hybrid model would be optimal, where we have some applications, like, for example, the imaging, the PACS, the heavy, the large files are on premises. Also, the solutions that talk to the medical devices, frequently they are preferred to be on premises. And wherever we need to scale to multi-facility or multi-sites, multi-locations, then the cloud becomes a preferred option. So our EHR is on the cloud, our ERP is on the cloud. whereas we maintain some on-premises infrastructure for certain workloads. Now, some providers or some hyperscalers provide what they call HCI, hyper-converged infrastructure, where you have where you are integrating the on-premises with the cloud. You can move workloads between these two seamlessly. Now, the data platforms on top of the cloud is the intelligence. It is what allows businesses to gain insights into real-time data, to make informed decisions as opposed to reactive actions. So the data, and with the introduction of cloud, allows and facilitates the retrieval of data into unified data platforms that allows businesses to build dashboards to gain real-time insights into their operations. However, we need to govern all of this with a governance model, and that's the role of enterprise architecture, where where it sets the guiding principles, the technology standards, it maps and aligns with the business strategy. So especially when we're talking about security architecture, of course, should be embedded by design, not as a fragmented layer. So all of these considerations are the pillars of a scalable future business model.
Thank you very much for not mentioning AI in the entire answer. But jokes apart, this actually is very relevant, and like I said, the cloud adoptions is the priority in the Vision 2030 as well. But it does not mean you randomly adopt everything on cloud. There is a latency issue in many industries where you have to maintain a hybrid cloud. And the data platform definitely has its own requirements, because it is an informed decision-making platform for especially the senior management.
If I may add to that, because
Yes.
taking that from the cloud and the infrastructure to the AI, and this is maybe an insight to all service providers for AI and the models we are seeing. The issue I see in the market now is that while we have cloud existence, data centers and everything, still the engines, the models are existing outside of the kingdom. And because we know we have regulations in terms of the data that should be sovereign here within the kingdom, and the data, even the disaster recovery servers should be here. So this element is slowing down the progression of AI within the kingdom in terms of scalability, and especially when we talk about very sensitive data, we talk about government confidential data, and even for private sector, that they have the competitive edge in terms of some elements of their information. I mean, we all saw the initial breach of information related to Samsung at the beginning, I think 2 years ago, and we are seeing more and more of these things because of the engine existing elsewhere other than the confined space of the organizations.
Yeah, thank you, Abdurrahman. I think also this is an opportunity for us in Saudi to build our own models, local models. I mean, we don't, because we have a large population, we have a huge data. There's a lot of automation and digitalization in the country. Although not all of it is under one standardized data format, but it's really an opportunity to start working on a locally developed AI model that can be consumed.
Yeah, I would like to add it from the real estate perspective. So we saw over the last 5 years that there were a lot of marketing about to be cognitive and autonomous and agentic, in real estate. And we saw a lot of marketing about it over the last 5, 7 years. I completely agree with you that some of these applications said they were not hosted in country and they were outside, so it slowed down the progress. But it also challenged the technology providers to build their models and the application in partnership with the local government companies, with the local providers, and
Totally agree.
it
It's an
started
opportunity.
pushing. Yeah. So things are changing, and there are, I've seen a lot of application providers. They are starting to partner with the local cloud providers, and a lot of new cloud providers are coming. We saw the Microsoft announcement, So I think things are changing very fast, but I completely agree with you. This, host data residency issue slowed down the progress of AI in real estate.
Excellent. So again, we had a really good discussion on the data sovereignty in the kingdom, and again, I would not agree it's a challenge, but I still feel that you have already have Google Cloud in the kingdom, and you have Microsoft Azure and the AWS coming in as well. They already have established their data centers here. Probably, inshallah, within a year or two, they should be also able to provide the services. And I believe the NC and the government has given, these mandates to AWS and Azure, where they can, say that, okay, as of now, the data is being hosted outside kingdom, but under the pretext that our data centers would be ready in, say, next 1 year or 6 months' time, and at that point, they will be shifted here. So that kind of flexibility has been provided by the government. And let's we'll need to have a few more questions in as we're going through. Now, coming back, Rajan, from an, real estate perspective, what do you think are the practical steps for real estate leaders, basically, to take successfully to drive the AI-led changes within the organization?
It's a very critical question. Thank you for this question. I think we should not try to boil the ocean when we have to start this digital transformation journey. Many times what people do, okay, let's do this transformation across the organization in everything. That doesn't work that way. I think the leaders have to think about first making the organization ready, that they are ready for digital transformation or AI, and try to have maybe one small AI use case sprint to first prove if that can work and it can scale, rather than saying, okay, we are going to, let's say, I'll just give an example. Okay, we want to save certain cost for across all of our buildings, let's say example, but just look at, is that even the digitization ready? Do they have the right data set even to apply those models there? So selecting where you can get the impactful win and the savings or the time savings or the cost savings, I think that's most important to start with, so that you can build the confidence across the organization that you can really apply this across the organization, and let people also learn that how to use that thing. Because many a time what people do, you have chatbots, you have dashboards, you have mobile apps, but how many of our people using it? One example will be that, okay, if our one of the AI engine is telling us, okay, go change the set point of the chillers, or make change that particular sensors or something. If someone is not even doing that and changing that, I don't think that will work. So I think the idea is that don't boil the ocean. Start small, show the win about it, and then scale it. And the last thing which I would say, in this organization, we should look at the 3 pillars, and I call it 3-legged stool approach, where we have business, we have IT, and we have the vendors. So business decides the outcomes, IT secures the data, and also gets along in the overall digital transformation stakeholder perspective. And the vendors, like the consultants and the application providers, actually provide those applications. So idea is basically to use this approach, the 3-leg stool, and but not to just talk about it, but just to start implementing it.
Excellent. So that's a good analogy there. Now let's come to a final closure here. And this question is for Abdurrahman, but I would say maybe Rajan and Omar, you can also join in. And it's pretty much a closing question right now. So what I need to understand, Abdurrahman, is one most critical capability of the CIO to remain relevant in next 3 to 5 years, which has to make some impact. It's not just relevance.
It's a little bit broad, but let me separate it into two parts. One is related to the infrastructure or the readiness of the organization. How can he make the organization he's leading in terms of digital transformation ready? And the other part will be related to his competencies in managing this division. So the first part was basically making every procedure, process, and data ready for value utilization. We cannot leverage what we cannot see. So data need to be clean, need to be classified, labeled, need to be accessible, and same for processes need to be mapped. I'm not talking about, because the way usually it's being done is let's have the exact process or procedure digitized. Now, digitizing a procedure is totally different thing. Do we need to have each and every signature of certain managers on the form? It needs optimization, need to re-engineer, we need to re-engineer the procedures. Now this is in terms of the infrastructure and the readiness for the upcoming 3 to 5 years. When it comes to the competencies which we discussed in a couple of questions before, I think the language and the competencies of the CIO need to be shifted from IT, infrastructure, digital, to more of a business-oriented competencies. He needs to understand the organization objectives, not only the digital ones. I'm talking about the business. Are we looking to enter new market? Are we looking to expand? Are we looking to enhance the quality of life of the citizens in the city? Once he understands that, after that comes, he needs to understand the market in terms of competitors, in terms of service providers, in terms of the mechanism of the market and the prediction of that. The final one would be related to understanding how to implement these things in terms of the digital environment. Once he understands all of these areas, he can then make the organization ready for when the business needs it, instead of just being reactive to what the boss need. No, basically what's been happening now is, okay, we need to move to a new market. Then the CIO will start working on the digital infrastructure to make it ready. He should be proactive, understanding the needs before even the market necessitated for him to be digitalized.
Perfect. Omar or Rajan, any points from your side?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about the single most critical capability, in my opinion, it will be to make your organization ready to adopt and use this transformation. If the organization itself is not ready, I mean, whatever applications and the transformation we do may not work. And I completely agree with you, like, a CIO function is not an IT function, it's a business transformation function. Digital transformation, AI are not side projects. They are basically, like organization transformation projects. So for me, the most critical capability will be to make your organization ready to adopt digital transformation and use these applications, whether it's AI or IoT or something else.
Thank you.
So I think now CIOs will step up to become part of the business strategy and be engaged and involved and consulted as early as possible, because some of the strategies may be informed, or maybe it may provide an input to the strategy. I give you an example. When a healthcare CIO provides the capability of telehealth and remote consultation and makes the EHR available remotely, then then the business can start providing a home health service, for example, which is a new revenue stream. So the CIO is not, and I second what Raj said, they should not wait until the board decides and then they will action what the board decides. They need to be blended within the board decision-making process.
Excellent, excellent.
If I may, I will leave this is my final message, I promise. I think the most analogy to translate the value of the CIO and the digital aspects to non-digital oriented executives is basically the analogy between the digital ecosystems and mathematics with relation to physics. You won't see anyone arguing, do we need mathematics in physics? It's an intrinsic part of physics. It's the language of physician in terms of developing physics. The same thing is digital to the business. You cannot separate the two. They are intrinsic, it's an intrinsic part of the business, and we shouldn't ask why. We should implement and improve. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we've covered all the aspects of a CIO's agenda in terms of enabling the business value through the scalable technology. All right, and we'll keep the floor open now for a few questions before we can wrap up. Yes, sir.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your great insight and the discussion. This is Dr. Moaz Gharbi, Digital Delivery and Operation Director. My question is, from the CIO perspective, basically, in order to have that business value, what kind of technology leadership you need to adopt in order to have the right balance between two competing forces? At the same time, you want to innovate fast, you want to try as much as you can different use cases using AI, a different technology, blockchain or machine learning and everything, to pick from, let's say, 100 idea, the best idea that will achieve that scalability and business value, versus you need to be more pragmatic, having the governance model, the policies, the right ownership, the right budget, and you will be slow to basically catch up with different competition. Thank you.
I think this is one of the questions you asked me about in the morning. It's basically, we need to, as mentioned, as with everything in terms of governance, there is no size fits for all. We need to separate the two. We are talking about the core infrastructure, the database, the ERP system, financials, and all of these things. And we need to treat these elements with zero compromise, zero trust. And we need to make sure that it's accessible while maintaining the element of security. Now, that doesn't mean that we cannot implement, innovate in the digital ecosystem, but that need to be separate in the edge, if I may say. Basically, these elements of innovation will have the agility, will have the flexibility to fail, to iterate, to improve, but it needs to be implemented in a sandbox before we made sure that all the elements of security and alignment are in place to make sure that it connects directly to the core ecosystem. Having said that, again, if it's not linked to value, it will be a mere hobby for the engineer. It will be consuming budget, time, and effort without any actual business value and capability provided to the organization.
I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely, yeah, I concur.
Thank
All right, I think we've reached and there's no time to take more questions. But again, like I said, the panelists, myself would be here. In case if you do have any questions, do reach out to us. We can discuss one-on-one. Parallelly, you can follow us on LinkedIn as well, and we'd be happy to continue this conversation beyond this day. Thanks. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you.